Saturation, tubes, harmonics, big marketing words. But does this plugin have it all? Hi, welcome to the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. In today's video, we're going to be looking at Wave's new plugin, the Magma Channel Strip. Now, I'm reading this straight off the user guide. True valve modeling technology. Faithful recreation of the classic tube circuits. So, is this just marketing hype, or is this plugin a classic in the making? Let's find out. So here we are in Studio One. Here is the channel strip. Very, very simple, as you can see. The signal routing is input section here, into the EQ section, into the dynamics, into the output section, into the meter. Now on some channel strips you can change that order, but on this, that's how it is. You're stuck with it. So here we have the input section with a high pass filter, and you can increase the input. In the EQ section, we have a high shelf and a low shelf and a bell for the mid, which you can change. Very simple EQ. We have an expander and we can switch to a gate. And we have a compressor with two different functions, basically. If you have smash turned on, it's a higher ratio, quick release and quick attack. And with it turned off, it's a lower ratio with slower release, slower attack. Obviously the output section and then the meter section. So really simple and self-explanatory. But we're here to listen to how it sounds. And from the off, I'm going to say this. I'm not here to show you subtle tube strip. I'm here to show you what it sounds like when you push it. You know, if you want to do any surgical EQ or exact compression, this is probably not the plugin you're going to go for anyway. So we want to hear what it sounds like when it's driven hard. We'll listen to the smash. We'll listen to what kind of effect you can have with the expander and the gate. And, you know, obviously the EQ is important. But we want to hear what it sounds like when it's pushed, because, I mean, you know, what's the point in having a tube amplifier if you're a guitarist and you don't push the tubes? It's pointless. So let's have a listen to a whole bunch of different instruments. We'll start with a kick and we'll push it and see what kind of sounds we can get. So you can hear straight away, just with the drive, you get a nice kind of crunch to it. It's nice, it's natural sounding, it's pretty good. I'm liking how it sounds. I probably wouldn't use this on a kick drum, but let's just have a listen. It's actually quite useful on a kick, actually, 60. So I wouldn't use it on this particular kick because I'd want some real low end girth to it. So let's keep it driven. I don't care about this going over. Do you know what? I don't even care if it goes into red. That's what we want to do with this. So let's have a little play. It's nice and clean. Now obviously there's no auto gain, so I'm getting it as close as I can. What I like about it straight away is it instantly livens things up with the saturation and the harmonics. It's turning quite a flat kick. I mean, that's a well-recorded kick. It's very, very clean. And it's immediately giving it some character. So let's just drop it in and out of bypass so you can hear. We could probably just clean up a little bit of mud. What's really useful is this goes all the way down to 100. So if you do want to take some kind of mud out of a kick drum, which is sort of in this kind of area, I mean, it's very nice. It does sound, it just gives it character, you know, and that's what this is about. I mean, I'm really not one of these people who, if you watch my other videos, you'll know this. I don't really go for, oh, does this exactly emulate tubes, or does this exactly emulate a particular piece of hardware? What I go for is, do I like the sound of it? You know, meat and potato stuff. I'm not interested what it emulates. I don't care. I just care whether or not I can get a good sound out of it. And this, for me, immediately makes this kick sound better. So let's have a listen on a live snare. So again, you can immediately hear that it gives it some character. Now there's a little bit of bleed from the kick drum, so this is where we can use this. So that's nice and useful. Just gets rid of the bleed. So I'm just giving the snare a bit of body using the mid bell here, and then just a bit of crispness at the top. I'm not sure where this shelf starts. I think I remember reading it was around about 2.5K. So it's a very, very broad stroke high shelf. But in the same way the old EQs would work on some of the Neves, that kind of thing, you can really push it and it doesn't sound bad. You know, don't look at the numbers. Just decide whether you like the sound of it or not. You know, it isn't, oh, I shouldn't push it up there. Well, yeah, you can push it up there if it sounds good. It doesn't actually in this case, but sounds pretty nice there. So crispy, crunchy. I mean, like I said, I'm using this. I want to push it. I want you to hear, you know, what it sounds like when it's overdriven, because it's not supposed to be a subtle channel strip. I mean, you can use it as a subtle channel strip by all means, and it does imprint a kind of character, kind of warmth, which is nice. You know, that's not pushing it too far, but it has still imprinted a nice bit of warmth. Again, for me, it's taken a pretty lifeless snare, which was very, very well recorded, apart from the little bit of bleed that annoyed me. But apart from that, very well recorded snare drum, and it's just, you know, you can breathe some life into it, and you can have it as crunchy and as overdriven as you like, or you can keep it clean. But if I wanted crunchy and overdriven, yeah, I would reach for something like this. Sounds nice. So let's have a listen to it on a looped drum beat that I've taken off an old record. Just for the record, this is the stereo version of it. The previous two were the mono version of it. They don't look any different, but you do get the choice depending on what the signal is, whether it's mono or stereo. So let's have a listen. So you can immediately hear, I've not touched the EQ or anything, I've just used the drive. It's given it more girth, it's given it more weight. The whole thing kind of expands outwards, which is nice. The snares sound a little bit weak, but as soon as you introduce the channel strip, gives it a bit more weight. So let's use the EQ and the compressor on this. So you'll hear when I introduce the compressor, it's bringing up the sound of the room. So it gives it a lot more ambience and it gives it more groove. So it's almost as if I've taken the sample off an old jazz record, and that room sound does exist, but you can't hear it in the original recording. But by using this compressor, it's bringing up that room sound. So you could almost take take a drum beat off an old record or a sample off an old record. You can almost change the way that it sounds just by bringing up that original character from the room. I mean, I love the sound of a breakbeat with compressor like that on it. You know, I love using 1176s in that way on a breakbeat and really, really pushing it, and it just makes the whole thing breathe and move. And it almost sounds like a different beat. You know, people will listen to a really well-known breakbeat on a track, like say Amen Brother or Funky Drummer by James Brown, and they'll hear it, and if you adjust it in that way, they'll be kind of like, well, it is Funky Drummer, but something's different about it. It sounds different. And you're bringing up the ambience that was in the room from that time, you know, and you start hearing things you didn't hear before, like maybe the squeaking of the kick drum pedal, or, you know, you might actually hear the drummer breathing, that kind of thing. I've noticed that before. So, and this is really nice, that it makes it, it's just really natural. That's what I like about it. It sounds heavily saturated, you know, and that's what I want to do with this plugin. I don't want it to be subtle. I want it to sound heavily saturated, and it does that really well. Let's listen to the smash. Let's do it. So you can really breathe some character into it there. I mean, that's a little bit too much for me, but... And then, of course, we can do the complete opposite. Take out the room sound by using the expander or the gate. And that's actually a little trick that I use on some sampled beats sometimes if there's too much room in there, there's too much ambience, and it just makes it sound a lot cleaner. You take some of the breaks from the 60s and 70s, the meters, for instance, James Brown's drummer sometimes, the late 60s recordings, some of Sly Stone's beats, there's loads of ambience going on. So just to make it cleaner, you can use the expander or the gate to kind of cut out that room and just make it sit. It gives you more control over it, because you know, if you cut out the room noise and the ambience, then when you EQ it, you're not going to be EQing the room noise, you're just going to be EQing the actual drum sounds. So that's a useful tool that you can use. And this expander is it's nice, it's subtle, it doesn't sound, it sounds realistic, it doesn't sound too much. You know, I do find some expanders and some gates just sound a little bit too much. You can, I mean, you can. So a little bit too much, but you can see what you can do with it. And again, it's nice sometimes when you have a very simple plugin, you can, you know, everything's there for you. You don't really have to worry too much. You can just reach for it, get the results that you want really, really quickly. And I like that in these plugins. It's, to be honest, it's why I still use SSL plugins a lot, because I know that desk back to front, and I know straight away with an SSL, I can get the dynamics that I want straight away using the expander and the gate and the compressor, and I can get the EQs. It's just there, it's right there in front of me. And the simplicity of this is actually what makes it appealing. So let's have a listen to it on a guitar. This is a very clean rhythm guitar. As far as I can remember, we recorded it straight into a desk, maybe a preamp into the desk. So again, you can hear it immediately imprints a warmth, a kind of tubey sound to it. But what it's also doing with this guitar is it's bringing up muddiness. So here's where I can use the EQ. So you can hear very, very quickly, I've given it some clarity, brightened it up, taken the muddiness out, and just using the compressor, just leveled everything out. So it just sits a lot tighter, it sits in the groove a lot better. Now obviously bear in mind, we're listening to this in solo. So the reason why I'm EQing it like this is because I know in my head already how it's going to sit in a mix. So you might think that it sounds a little bit like, well, it's got no weight in it at all, but that's because I know that when I have it in a track, I don't really want too much weight in it, because I know the bass line sits with the guitar. So just bear that in mind. You know, I mean, obviously it's not a good practice to get into to EQ things in solo, because you're not going to know how it sounds corresponding with the rest of the track. But I just know from experience from EQing this particular guitarist before how it sits in a mix. So that's why I've EQ'd it in this way. But you can hear it's called woo, 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 kind of like that, you know, before the EQ. But I've just taken a bit of the mud out, basically, around about 240. So it's cleaned it up, but it's also given it that kind of tube sound, that girth. So let's have a listen to it on a pre-master that I had from a client. If you watch my videos, you'll be very familiar with this piece of music. It's from Lip Sensory Overload. I was quite surprised, I've got to be honest, when I saw some presets on here from mastering engineers. I will admit, I put my hands up. I was a bit dismissive, and I kind of thought, well, really, you know, can this really be used in mastering? You know, it's definitely not something that I would think of reaching for if I did a master. But of course, with mastering, you sometimes want to imprint a character, and tube character is one of the things that a lot of mastering engineers want to do when they're working in the box. So it makes perfect sense, doesn't it, really, if you've got a channel strip which is supposed to model tube technology, to try it out. So I tried it out, and it is actually pretty good. So listen to the low end. There's a kind of bass sound going. Listen to that when I drop it in and out. It just immediately has a lot more weight to it. I'm going to push it a little bit more than I would. It's probably just a little bit too far. I'm getting a little bit of distortion on the highs. So it sounds like I'm clipping converters there. And like I said, I'll stop talking in a moment and I'll actually play it. Listen to the low end. So I'm going to have it on bypass, and I'm going to drop it in. Can you hear what I mean? It gives it immediate girth. Now, obviously, I've not touched this, and if I did use this in mastering, I probably wouldn't touch this, to be honest, or any of this. It would be purely to get some character in there from the drive. Yeah, as I thought, it's not something that I would use in mastering the EQ section. It just, you know, I was thinking one of the ways that I check out EQs for mastering is I will try the 5K, and it's not doing it for me, to be honest. It just, you know, on top of the drive as well, it doesn't make it sound any better, and I want it to sound better. That's the whole point. So, but for the drive on a master, or if you put it on a mix bus, just to give it some bottom end girth, the same way that maybe you would use the black box or something like that, you know, the plugin from Plugin Alliance does the same kind of thing, gives it that kind of weight, adds some girth to it. So there you have it, the Waves Magma channel strip. Now I have to be subjective here because I want to tell you what I think of it. You know, you're going to have to try it out yourself to decide whether you like it or not. It's a plugin that imprints sound, character. And if you want that character, then, you know, try it out. And for certain things, I like the character that it imprints. I like what it does to drums. I like what it does to live drums, especially. I did use it on a 909 and an 808, and for me personally, it's not really doing it. 808 snares were okay, but for live drums, I really like it. I like what it does to old breakbeats that I've sampled. it imprints a really nice sound. I even like the compressor on that. If I run through the parts of the plugin which I really like, which I'll probably find myself using, the drive I really like. I like the sound that the plugin gives your source overall. The EQ section, it's okay. I wouldn't really use it to EQ a sound. What I would probably use it to do is EQ the sound that the drive is imprinting, if that makes sense. What I noticed was that it will, when you drive it, it increases the low end. So I might want to pull back the low end a little bit, and it increases, like you heard on some of the drums, it does bring the mud up a little bit, and it might bring the room up a little bit. So I would use the EQ to compensate for what the drive's doing, but I wouldn't use it as a channel strip EQ. The compressor and the expander gate, yeah, they're okay, they do the job, and it's handy to have them there in a channel strip, and that's all I can really say about that. It's okay, I might use it. Would I use it in mastering for the character that it imprints? Probably not. I have a bunch of other plugins that when I want that kind of sound, I reach for those. That's not to say that I won't use the Magma in the future. I need to spend a bit more time with it. I'm certainly not going to be putting it on any clients' masters that I'll be doing for the foreseeable, because I really like to get to know my plugins before I start doing that. But I have used it in some mixes. I've used it on some live drums. I haven't really tried it out on vocals, so if anyone tries it out on some vocals, please leave some comments below. Let me know how it sounds. But, you know, overall, yeah, I like it. I think, you know, I'm seeing a lot of feedback on this plugin, and people seem to like it. It seems to be perhaps one of those plugins from Waves that will become a classic. And, you know, it's definitely a plug that I'll be using in future, and I want to get to know it. I really like the character to it. Does it sound like tubes? I don't care. I think I said in the video earlier on, that's just not what I'm about. I don't care if it sounds like a piece of hardware. I don't care if it sounds like a particular analog piece of hardware, or whether it sounds like tubes or whatever. I'm not interested. I'm interested in whether it makes things sound better. And for me, on some sources, it does. It makes things sound better. So I'll be using it. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more mixing and mastering tutorials and reviews. This is the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. Till next time.